All right. Welcome, Mendy. I am so excited to have you on today on Worthy Women Wednesday to really share about your story of overcoming your childhood abuse and your relationship abuse that you've gone through. And really, like, you're not just coming to us being like, yeah, let's have an okay life. Let's be okay in life. Like, you're coming to us being like, let's actually create the life of our dreams and go for anything that we have our hearts set on. Like your stylist bar, everything that you're doing to show up for women who've gone through sex trafficking. All that stuff is totally doable. And so I'm so excited to hear more about your story and to encourage others to let them know that they can do anything in life.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on here with you. And I know it's tough for a lot of people to want to open up, so I appreciate the chance to be vulnerable. So
yeah, absolutely. And we get to be vulnerable and just to encourage you. I met Mendy actually when is the first time I met you, Mendy?
gosh, I think it was through Instagram, wasn't it?
It might have been through Instagram, and you have been one of
came in here
encouraging people to me. And then so when I actually went in and got my hair done and felt beautiful and powerful afterwards, and really the next time I sat down and you actually shared a little bit of your story, I was like, everyone needs to hear your story because it is so powerful. So can you start with your story for us?
How far back do you want me to go?
All the way, wherever you feel comfortable.
Well, it's definitely not, not glorious for sure for myself to be able to tell this, because there's a lot, as we make choices through life, it's, a lot of my own decisions that got me into situations and consequences. So really, starting out just as a young child, my parents were married, my dad, workaholic. And so my mom was very passive. My dad was very verbally abusive and sometimes physically abusive. So I grew up with two older sisters in the home with two parents. I knew they loved me, but it was a very controlling environment. So I began to really cause a lot of problems at home, become rebellious. Age 9, I packed up a blanket and a bag and started walking down the road. So running away at age 9 didn't make it very far, down the road a little bit. But you think of a 9-year-old just not caring because they don't want to be in their environment. So that just kept transpiring into early teens, where I started skipping school, not coming home, staying the night with boys, and getting into drugs, being promiscuous, fighting, being super mean to other girls, which I might get teary about that now because that's like opposite passion in life. So I had to say sorry a lot. So I didn't know I was going to get this emotional. Sorry.
No, Mendy, this is amazing to have these emotions and we get to be open and honest and to share our stories.
Yeah. Thank you. So, so then really by the age, 14, 15, I'm not going to school. I'm getting kicked out of school for fighting. And then by the time it was really bad, it is where I am living with drug dealers in the state of Boise, Idaho. And I called my sister, one of my sisters that I actually I never gotten along with, but I felt safe enough to call her. And my dad came and picked me up, and they had already planned for me to go to a boarding school in Missouri. So to put me on a plane, because they feel like my life was, they were afraid to lose me. So, oh yeah, there's so much detail. I mean, it was silly things like take the 4-wheeler and ride it across the freeway and not come back for hours and days, it's just silly stuff. And, but so at that point, they got me onto the airplane. The cops had to come to the airport because I was running from my dad. They finally got me on there, and I ended up in a boarding school in Patterson, Missouri, with over 100 girls. So, wow. Funny enough, hated girls because of my own insecurity. That's where it stems from. And I ended up with an all-girls boarding school.
That's crazy, yeah.
Yeah. So, with that being said, I hated it for 6 months. Of course, caused trouble there too. But then I started, really connecting with these girls. I mean, we would wrestle and giggle and, do things that I never had before. Never really enjoyed, and it gave us a common ground with everybody who was troubled or living on the street. And so we had a lot of good stories, and I'm still friends with a lot of them now. So finally I left by the time I was 17. My dad wanted to bring me home. My mom did not want me there. She didn't think I was ready, and I'm sure she was scared it was all going to happen again. Yeah. So they brought me back, and I just did not feel comfortable at home. So I moved out, got a job, and then I met my children's father. And to shorten this a little bit, I got pregnant, got married, and then had our other one. And that's where that first relationship was very unhealthy. So, yeah. I don't know if you want me to keep going.
No, keep going. I would love to hear more about your story.
Okay. So, it just, I was very unhealthy anyways, my mindset. And just because I believe that it stemmed from my father and the control. And I'm like, nobody's ever going to do that to me. While I was pregnant, he was cheating on me. I guess more of the story with that, we ended up getting divorced. He moved to Reno, Nevada, and he hung himself. So he committed suicide. So, and it's where I found out his story of sexual abuse as a child. He never was able to talk about it. So it came out in violence and punching holes in the walls and different things like that. So it just became a huge lesson for me to teach my kids that communication and talking about what's in there, what happens to you. Even, as I say, as a child with my dad, I was like, no man's going to control me. They're not going to touch me, or, and I'm going to be the strong one. I'm going to, push everybody else around. And so it's just it's a lot to learn. It's a lot. and realize that other people have their stories too. It doesn't make it right for any of us to act them out in different ways, but yeah. So, and I even through that divorce and everything, I continued on in multiple different relationships. And, anytime anything hard, difficult would come up, I would run. I'd be out of there. I'd cause a fight or something, and I would just be done. So I went from relationship to relationship and put my boys through that. And had to apologize a lot for that too. So yeah, that went on and on and on. And I guess I kind of want to throw something in there too, that when I returned from boarding school, when I first saw my dad, he was a totally different person. He was like soft in the face, soft spoken. I'm like, who is this man? This is not my dad. And so while I was gone, he went through intensive just change. So he started going to anger management and different groups, and then became the head of it. So I always know that there's the power of change. You got to work hard at it, and all of us have it in there. Because if I can see my dad change from one person to the other, it's definitely doable. So that's really inspired me. So.
Wow. Yes. Right now there's so much more in your story, and I want to get to where you're at now. what you're doing now, but thank you for sharing that and being open, and like your vulnerability is going to allow other people to realize like that it's not all easy every day, and talk about our stories sometimes can still bring up painful memories. And like you said, like when you're with other girls, like I can relate that completely with being really active and it's so hard to try to out other people. Is it echoing to you?
Is what?
Echoing to you? I don't know if
it's
okay. One of the interviews, but hopefully you guys can hear us because this message is really important. But Mendy, so just for one, thank you for being vulnerable, and thank you for sharing that part of your story. Also, like I want to touch on just like in the very beginning of, you talked about how you started acting out and you caused a lot of problems. No 9-year-old runs away from home on their own. It happens after a long time of not feeling heard and loved in the family. So I want to encourage you, like, it's not you causing those. And so what do you think you felt like you realized like that those things weren't your fault?
Ooh. Well, I think there's two parts to that, really. I immediately, from a young age, was like, I didn't do anything, you know, I'm not doing anything to deserve this, so I knew that. But I also became very angry because I was like, I don't deserve this, and I just got this attitude of, no one's ever going to do that to me again. No one's ever going to hurt me again. No one's going to touch me. So really, I think right off, I knew that this, you know, screw this, you know, I don't want to live here. I'm going to stand up for myself because my mom won't, because she was passive. And then I was like really trying to be strong that young. So then I think what I did is I carried the attitude of maybe even entitlement I took on basically how my dad was, you know, you're not going to push me around. I'm going to get you before you get me, that kind of thing. And so I think what I finally realized, not until my mid-30s, was that I don't have to carry that. I don't have to take that on. I can heal from it and forgive and be able to have freedom in myself and peace and talk about it with my dad, and both of us heal. And my mom, why didn't you ever stand up for me, and different things like that, instead of turning around and being the same person that my dad was. So
absolutely, like you realize that you had that choice, you know, whether at the end of the day, whether the pain from you did, whether the pain, wherever that pain came from, and the reaction you're having, like we have the choice to end it with us. And I talk about like break. Do you feel like talking to your dad and having that conversation with your mom like really broke those yourself and how you treated others?
I believe it took multiple conversations, and that began. I think that began the healing process within our relationship, and our relationships, and probably even for them as well, for how they interact, because you know, they're realizing what had gone on. I ask me that one more time.
Yeah, just really like those conversations, like choosing to have those conversations with your parents, talking about what they had done to hurt you. Like, how did you even start? How did you start the conversation for one? Like, I know a lot of our viewers probably maybe have wanted to go back and talk to the people that have hurt us, but that can be a really hard decision to face. And how did you decide to start there?
Well, I knew that I didn't want that barrier, and I guess that's different, you know, if you're wanting the relationship versus something that you just need clarity. So I want to make sure and get that right. So I wanted the relationship with my mom and dad, so therefore I wanted it to heal, and that's why I wanted to talk about it. I also wanted to figure out, you know, the mindset and what, what was it? In your own life and childhood, was it pressure? Was it, what created you to think that's okay? Or, so that was the reason why I wanted to talk about it and understand it. So maybe I could understand myself more as well. It seems how I felt like I became my dad. So clarity on that. I would imagine if it was a different situation, I would also want clarity, but for different reasons, for people that have hurt me, just to at least have some clarity and, of course, not being in that relationship, but at least be able to understand and forgive and move on.
Absolutely. Because it takes a really strong person to realize that you do want to have those conversations. Do you agree, like, those conversations aren't even necessarily for your abuser? Like, they're also for you, right? Like you said that. You're like, I want to understand myself and really figuring out why I started taking on some of the truths that I did.
Yes, because I also believe, in the abuse cycles, whatever it may be, that, me, can start taking on very unhealthy behaviors. And whether it's self-sabotage, which a lot of that I believe comes out, or just, treating people very poorly, and the anger and resentment and everything that builds up, you don't know what to do with it. So it's a lot.
Yeah. And like you're like, I've had clients come to me and just say that, like, they're taking out their pain from their past onto their children, and their heartbreaking. I would never do that. But really, like, it's so important because you've gone through painful experiences, it can come out in different ways. And until you really realize that it ends with you, it's hard to have that carry on to other relationships in your life. Right? So do you feel like you had that, you said you had a lot of conversations with your children and stuff, but do you feel like you had that with your children as well?
Oh, yes. Because they've had a lot of anger towards me, and I totally understand. And I don't blame them one bit. They've had a lot of loss and abandonment issues. So a lot of conversation with my boys, asking even, with me being the one that caused hurt, what is it, what did I do that hurt the most, and how did it hurt you? And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I wasn't there in these ways. And I'm so sorry I did this. And I wasn't healthy. I needed to work on me, and you had to pay for it. And so definitely the conversations. And anytime they're 23 and 25 now. And now I have a 2-year-old granddaughter. So I just had to learn, which I wish I would have when they were really little, is to learn to apologize as an adult to your kids. They need to see that they're, you're not just the one putting the law down, that you're sorry and you're wrong, and then communicate openly too, and just instead of the anger, that just letting them know how you feel and being vulnerable with them. So it's actually very strong instead of us thinking it's so weak, Yeah,
it is. It's so hard sometimes just say sorry and to acknowledge those things. To encourage you, like, you were fighting for yourself, Mendy, like the only way you knew how at that point. And the only way you knew how was to take on those traits that your dad had of, being strong and being the one who's right all the time, powerhouse. And so, like, to know that, like, it was really like you were fighting for yourself and saying sorry, yes, to your, like, children. But how did you kind of in your own life, like, realize that, like, yes, maybe there's some things you wish you would have done differently with your children, but how do you actually realize that, like, it wasn't all your fault? And how do you forgive yourself?
I have to take full responsibility for what my choices and what I did. And that's first and foremost, I believe, is acknowledging it for myself. And then really change in myself, because I can sit there and say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, and then continue to do the same thing. And that's more hurtful, I believe, than, just, don't say sorry at all, I feel like sometimes. But I had to work on myself in order to forgive myself. And I don't know if that sounds weird, but I really have had to look inward so heavy and get hit with so many things to where I've had the choice to be like, oh, well, she did that, and this person did that, and this wasn't my fault. Instead, I've had to be like, okay, what is it about me that's causing this situation to be the way it is? Is there anything, or is it just a difficult situation that needs to be handled differently? But what is my part in this? So once I started doing that, I just felt really a lot of peace inside, and knowing that, I was figuring things out. It was so much of a relief to realize that it's okay. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be nice to people. It's okay to love on people. But really, confidence, I had none. So therefore, anybody I felt threatened by, mainly women, right? So it would be just a fight and a dig on them instead of me gaining my own confidence. And it's just incredible what that does. And confidence, it's not in looks, and it's not in what you wear, what house you live in, or anything like that. It's a whole different internal thing. I never knew it was so difficult to get to know your own self, but it's amazing,
Yes.
with yourself all the time. So.
Yes, like it's you can like check on everyone else, know how everyone else is doing, but then like actually checking in on yourself and knowing who you are can be the hardest part. And so like throughout that, like how did you even decide, like what was your breaking point of being like, no, I get to work on myself right now? Like what was your breaking point?
One last terrible relationship that was abusive.
Yeah.
And I had enough, and I'm pretty stubborn, but that can work in really good ways when you put energy towards it. But it's, why do I keep hitting my head against the wall? And why am I self-sabotaging? And because I wasn't working on me. So I was doing the same thing over and over, expecting this, different results. And, it was expecting someone else to take care of it for me, or they needed to do it, be better for me. And so it wasn't until then, until I realized no one else is going to kick my own butt but me. I have to do this for me. And that's why my whole thing here is empower yourself. And
yes.
That's where I felt like I really needed to start. And that's where the change started coming from.
Yeah. So what was your first step in like really the change? So I assume you probably got out of that relationship, right? And then what was next? Or maybe not, but what was next?
Yes, well, kind of funny story, but it's really cool when two people can change together. Let's put it that way. And in like big ways, and really do the work and put the work in together. It's very, very awesome. So first step to that would be boundaries. Boundaries, being able to say no, not letting other people decide for me, and then getting overwhelmed and stuck in situations. Boundaries on, nope, I'm not going to fight with you. I need a minute. Or no, I'm going to go for a walk. Or it's simple things at first that were just boundaries on, I'm not doing this anymore. And I'm going to learn it in healthy ways. But I'm telling you, it does. It takes baby steps. But the more you do it, the easier it gets, and the more empowering it is. So,
yeah.
And a lot of people take boundaries as, boundaries are actually very healthy and can be, just very, very good and very simple sometimes too.
Yeah. So great, because so this month I'm actually talking about boundaries, like all month long, having healthy that can be so hard to have after abuse. So I love that you brought that up. First question is, though, just like really after the relationship, like, so are you still in that relationship?
Yes.
Okay, I had a feeling. I was like, this might be the special man in your life right now. And
Yeah.
to encourage your audience, like I actually had a similar story because Eric and I's relationship, and if you haven't seen our interview, like you can watch our interview on our story, but we had the same relationship. Like there's two broken people coming together. Yes, we loved each other, but I had never healed from my own abuse. And so I took that into our relationship as well, Mindy. And so like I was actually able to heal while still being with Eric. And that's not always the case. Like there are cases where you do have to get out of those relationships. And there's a point where he's not willing to stand up for you. He's not willing to grow and to learn with you and to be there for you. Like after having those hard conversations, I'm sure that you had, then yes, you don't have to have those people in life. But it is possible to heal and grow together. And so just as far as like the relationship, how did you guys grow together? How did you come into this healthy relationship?
Well, learning that it was make it or done. You know, change. It was going to be change or that's it. Totally done because it was very toxic, and neither one of us had healed from a lot. So, so it was. Once again, baby steps, counseling, little boundaries of, okay, what's going to work? What causes us to get to that point where it's just stupid, you know? You know, so basically, okay, so if one of us is getting upset, it's not an excuse to get out of a conversation that you don't want to be in. It is I really am feeling upset. I need a minute. Do you mind if I take 10 minutes to kind of process through this? Something like that. And that, it just, like I said, that becomes easier and easier. And then as each one of you respects that, and, you know, and it's not a defensive, oh, well, you know, we also have to learn to respect each other and not take everything personal. And so the growth and the confidence in ourselves as we're growing really helps the relationship go along much easier and thrive.
Yeah, I love that because there's like that moment where like I'm willing to go to counseling too. Obviously, that's a huge moment in healing for both of you guys to realize like, yes, there's something we want to work on, and we're willing to do it. We're willing to fight for each other, and so it's really powerful. And then going back to just boundaries and stuff, and taking that, it's like you said, like you took that deep breath and like, okay, I don't have to respond right away, and I can go on a walk. I can tell them that I'm not ready to respond, and knowing, like, reciprocating that, being like, yeah, absolutely, go on, absolutely take that time for yourself. So what do you feel like? How did you start having, like, was it mutual? Like, you understood that, or was there conversations of like, hey, like A, B, and C, what we're gonna do when something comes up, or how did that work out?
Well, I think that we had to realize each other's triggers from each other's past hurts, because that all comes into relationships, and or not, or when you're single, right, from your past. So with us, we had to realize, okay, what are your triggers, or even in things that have happened in the relationship. So I couldn't just take off and say I'll be back, because then it's open-ended and that's scary, right? It's for both people. And so we had to realize, okay, these are your triggers, these are my fears, vice versa. And then realize that, okay, so if I say I need 10 minutes, you know, or I'm going to go to the store, I'll be back in 30, or something, to where things are not open-ended and really just try to understand what's going to affect each other. And then they ask, you know, does this work for you? Is this okay? Or is that, you know, not helping you either? So that has had to be the conversation a lot, because it doesn't always work for both people. So just coming to, you know, agreeing to, yeah, let's do that. I like that kind of thing. And or asking, what's your idea? What do you think is a healthy thing, healthy way, or what would you like? How would you like me to handle it?
I love that, adding that on and just being like, hey, does this actually work? Because we can't read people's minds. And I think sometimes we're like, you should know this by now or whatever. No, be respectful and understand that they don't understand everything that's going through our minds. So, hey, does this work for you? Is an amazing thing for our audience just to take away of just knowing that we get to have these conversations. We shy away from hard conversations or hard things in life. We get to show up and have these hard conversations. So I'm really happy you've had those.
Yeah, it's all also, basically we've had to learn what our communication styles are too, because if somebody comes at me or I go at them and I'm upset and I'm just kind of snide or I say something that's not put in a certain way, a lot of people have a hard time with that. So my husband's very sensitive and I can be very sensitive too. So being able to have the communication properly too and say, hey, is now a good time? Can I talk to you for a few minutes? Instead of just steamrolling it in there and I'm like, hey, by the way, and he's in the middle of something or I'm in the middle of something and it's not the best time because you want to make sure you're heard and they're heard. And so there's a lot of good things out there that are just simple, but you just have to remember to do them.
Yes,
put them in place.
Yeah, to take that time to actually do that and to do it at the right time. Exactly. Like sometimes we want to just like get it out, and it's like they're at work, they're busy, they're not trying to be, but they need that time and have time to think.
Yes.
Yeah. So what are some other boundaries that you you created in your life and that have really supported you as far as like maybe with your family
now? Well, I struggle big time with taking a lot on. So too much on to where I get overwhelmed. So prioritizing and being able to say no, even in stuff that I want to do or business wise, I have to be careful because my calendar starts filling up and then my relationship isn't getting the attention or I am too tired to go see my granddaughter or something like that. So just little things like that to make sure that we are prioritizing, that we can make sure that I can make sure that I'm not adding things on that don't need to be there. So I have adequate time for myself, which I need. It's really healthy for me. And then for other people in my life and my family. So that's one big one that I've realized that starts getting to me a lot that I have to work on. But, but I also know at this point, I'm able to give a respectful no or decline on something if I don't want it versus feeling like I had to always say yes. So that's a good one for me.
Feeling like you always have to make sure everyone else is okay or happy by saying yes. And then all of a sudden you're like, I am so busy. I'm so tired. And don't have time. What are some conversations you've had like recently, like how people said no? Because I know it's hard to do in general.
Oh, you cut out just a little bit.
Okay, I would say, what are some conversations that you've had recently that you've had to say no to? Obviously without dropping names or whatever else, but just you even say no because a lot of times it's so hard to say those two, like no. It's such a simple word, but it's really hard for us sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Probably some events that have been something I really want to go to and I really want to do, but I know it's going to put me in that spot to where my tank is empty and then I'm not good for anybody. So things like that, or someone asking me to come over, and I'm just like, sorry, can we do it next week? And it's okay unless I feel like somebody really truly needs a friend or they're in dire straits, right? So of course I would make time for that. That's different, I feel, but just different things, or a workout when I know I'm already I'm tired. I'm already dehydrated from not being good at being a water drinker. So just even just daily things that come about that I have to keep in my mind that, okay, when someone asks a question, think through it before just getting all excited. So
well, what do you say to like people who think it's selfish to put yourself first? Like how do you get over that mindset of not selfish?
I see it as putting yourself first selfishly would be being selfish. So going, saying, to, friends or family, no, I only want this. I only want to go do that. I want, I really feel like putting yourself first would be making sure you're getting enough sleep, making sure you work out or find a good way to express some of the life anxiety stuff that's going on. Talking when you need to talk. That's a big one. Instead of feeling like you're going to interrupt someone else's time or day when you need that, that's putting yourself first. Going to, do something like go get your toes done if you need an hour to, just be going for a walk, anything that's really helping your whole mind and body be healthy. And to me, that's what that means. Because I know if I don't get enough sleep, I'm not very good. So yeah. I really have to. What's that?
No one wants to be around you when you don't have enough sleep now.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you say? I mean, you kind of listed it off. Like, what are the things that, like, are non-negotiables every single day when you wake up?
Kiss my dog. No. She's so cute.
So you can move over a little bit so they can even see your dog.
Whoa.
Yes. Look at that. That is the most adorable dog ever. I love that.
Non-negotiable when I wake up in the morning. Oh boy. That's funny. If I'm going to work, it's a shower.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know. I guess I'm pretty simple that way, but that's a good one.
Do you feel like there's something you have to do like before yourself in the mornings, or do you feel like you rush and make sure everyone else is okay, or do you feel like that's something maybe you can
I don't feel like I have to run around. I mean, most of the time it's just my husband and I. So I really don't feel like I have to do that. I guess the number one thing is non-negotiable. I want a shower. Yeah. No. So I make sure that I am able to get ready in the morning. Which is important to me to feel good starting my day.
Absolutely. And really, like, let's just touch on, like, even owning a style bar. Why is that important to you?
I once again, say it again.
I feel like there's kind of a weird connection right now. I'm sorry, guys, you're on your end, but so you own a style bar. So tell us about your style bar. Where is it? How can we go there? I love it. I want to go there every single day. But what is the importance to you, like, even owning that for you personally, and what does it do for others?
So it's Velocity Style Bar. It's located in Phoenix, Arizona. If you're not from the area, it's also called Arcadia. So 44th Street and Indian School Road. And wow, I didn't think that when I first started it, I'm like, okay, business on my own. Okay. I'm like, what am I doing? I have no idea. And then it has become the biggest growth period of my life, which is absolutely wild, because I was like, I can't do this. There's no way I can do this. But it is not just, I feel like, okay, I'm going to sit at the front desk. I'm just, going to own a business. Well, surprise, surprise. It's through employees and dealing with everything and running everything myself and learning and being backed up into stuff where I have no idea what I'm doing. Oh my goodness. It's caused me with say employees, to really have to look at myself. It's a big one. And be like, okay, if something's not going, it's not always going to go smooth. There's things that happen, but if something's not going smooth, what is it as a manager, as an owner, that I am creating or that I'm not doing that is creating kind of the chaos? So, or is it my hiring? What is it? So I really had to look inward all the time, often, and wonder what it is. I mean, this is my baby, not theirs, you know? So I've got to make sure. And so, which is also, there's a huge learning curve. But when I started this, it was, okay, what do you want the motto to be? And I'm like, empower yourself, because I never thought I could do this. And I mean, we came up with the name and the logo and everything from the ground up. And so that was always something that really stuck. And now it is so powerful to me, because I met the most amazing women I've ever met in my life, that love other women, that want to see them succeed, that will talk, be real vulnerable. I've never experienced anything like this in my life. So with the amount of women that are just in it for each other and not competing. And it's the most seriously endearing thing to me. I just feel hugely blessed. So, and just the confidence I've gained in just being able to be me and not try to make it about looks or trying to get anybody else's, guy's attention or anything like that. I've had to do it. And I cried 8 million times and wanted to quit. And I'm still here through all this. And I just feel very blessed, and I'm out of words, really, because it's been so huge for me. I know I still have so much more to go with growth, but it's been so fun. It's been fun too, and just creating something that you put your blood, sweat, and tears into, literally.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because like you said, like it takes so much more to actually own a business and to show up authentically and honest and open in front of women. And you never had that before. And so to encourage everyone listening, like, you never thought you could do this, right? And you're here today, and it is possible to go for your dreams. And then I wrote actually in your bio, and I said, we don't just have to be okay with abuse. We don't just have to be, most of the time my response when I talk to people who've gone through abuse, they're like, I'm doing okay. But no, we don't have to just do okay. We get to have more than okay. We get to be excellent, great. We get to have a community who's fighting with us, who's fighting for us. And we get to come alongside amazing people. We don't have to do life on our own. And so can you just talk about how to get over your limiting beliefs and actually just go for it? Whatever your dreams are, just go for it. Question. How did you
you mean moving forward, not being able to, I can't do it, you mean? Yeah. Well, we were originally going to buy a franchise because I felt like I had backup and I had support that way. And so it was going to ease into it, right? But I had a knot in my stomach the whole time, because I'm like, I'm working for someone else. It's not my own creativity. Why wouldn't I just stay where I'm at? I'm making good money, So listening to that knot in my stomach, when I'm telling myself I can't do it, but I got relief from that knot in my stomach when I moved into doing this. I mean, it was a whole different feeling of what am I doing, but I had peace about it. So really, I feel like when we fight something the most, it's going to be there for growth. And if we can just lean into the uncomfortable and
Listen, say that one more time. This is like one of my favorite quotes you said. You said that actually when you were doing my hair one time. And I was like, wait, what did you say? Okay, say one more time.
Lean into the uncomfortable. So you got to go through it, not around it. And the blessings, I mean, you're going to go through growth spurts and pain. I'm not going to say you're not, because it's tough and it's hard. But if you never go through it and lean into it, you're not going to experience the other side of how amazing it can be and how good you can feel. And like I said, and meeting all these amazing people in my life and having support and realizing that I'm support for other people, which I never thought I would have been. So that's been a huge part for sure.
And just really like realizing that like all of your past has led you to this moment of being able to show up for other women, being able to be for other people, being able to do the hard things like, you know, showing up to your company. But really like realizing that you're not from your abuse and realizing it's made you stronger. Like, how do you feel like, do you feel like that your past has led you to this moment, or what do you feel from that?
Oh, completely. I mean, like I said, I'm a little stubborn, but I feel like I always put my energy into the wrong things. And once I put that into, you know, good things or trying to do something that, you know, is growth, then it is meant, you know, we have to figure out what we're meant for and where your passion is and put all of that there. And all that anger and everything that you're feeling that's taking up that space, you know, do something for yourself for growth. Because I really feel like, and I don't know any of you believe in God, but I really feel like you know, when it's said that these bad things can be turned around and meant for something good. And I believe that 100%, because oh my gosh, I don't even know if I should be alive. But I mean, I've worked out in a men's prison. I've done things that are just wild for me to look back and think that I did. But it's just things, you know, any abuse or trauma or things that you've been through, you can always use that to not, you know, don't self-sabotage, because that's where we want to go first, because the hurt's there and you don't, you know, sometimes you don't know what to do with it. And so it's definitely can all be used for good and for healing and to help other people like you are, and to bring awareness for sure, so other people feel the strength to talk or get support or be the support.
Love that so much. Literally, I wasn't in on that question of just like, what would you say to someone who is stuck feeling like their abuse is always going to define them, and feeling like they can't get up off the couch and they can't take that next step of healing and freedom? What would you say to that girl?
I would say find the one person or somebody that you trust, that you can sit there and talk and cry and laugh and just speak it. Because when it's held in here, you're gonna feel like a prisoner. And the most powerful thing to me would be for you to reach out to somebody, so your abuse is, you know, behind you and not defining you, because then they lose, you know, that loses, and you're gaining strength and help and hope. And I mean, just by simply talking about it one time, you it's so important. And sometimes it's not easy to talk to a friend or family member, so, you know, reach out to Alisha. You know, or somebody that is not emotionally involved, or a family member, because sometimes that, you know, is not a comfortable place for people. So
I could not agree with you more on that, because when you don't share your story, when you don't say it out loud, it has hold over you. And I remember the first time even sharing my story, that relief that came from that. and encourage you, like Mendy said, like it doesn't always have to be someone close to you. Like, it can seem weird to reach out to someone online. Like Mendy and I met on Instagram, and you've been one of the big encouragements in my business this last year. And so I'm so grateful for you. How can we support you? What's new? What's going on in your life that we can support you with? And how can people get in touch with you?
Oh, I don't, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram. You can call me here at Velocity. You can email me here. Yeah. Yeah. Send a dog with a note. Yeah, I don't know how you could, support me. The only thing that I would really want out of this conversation right here is to inspire someone else to gain their peace and their freedom and from feeling just guilt and shame, or just feeling stuck, because feeling stuck sucks really bad, or feeling, that just constant heaviness. And so I guess that's what would support me the most, is knowing that, someone else, seriously, I'm here. If anyone wants to reach out, please do. If you guys want to talk to me or ask me questions, I'm here.
Yes, I'm going to add all of her links below, guys, so that you can just message her directly. And she is the most amazing person to talk to and be there for. And if you're in Phoenix, always talk at her chair and get your hair done at the same time. And it's going to be incredible. Like Mendy said, like, this is for you guys to know that healing and freedom is possible for you too. It's not just healing and freedom is possible for you too. So thank you so much for being on, sharing your story. I'm so glad to be able to connect with you, and I'm sure this will not be the last time I'm interviewing you, because there's so much to talk to about with you. But thank you for being on.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, we'll get together. Okay, bye-bye.